Hello, English learners. It's Marcos here, ready to share a hilarious adventure to help you speak English like a pro. Picture this, I'm in my cozy apartment, my cat Luna curled up on the couch, purring softly, and I'm munching on a juicy orange, thinking about my next challenge. Today's story is about getting lost literally in a supermarket while trying to speak English. It's packed with funny mix-ups, easy words like buy, food, and help, and tips too. Make learning fun. So grab a snack, maybe a banana or some cookies, and let's dive into this tale together. Ready? Here we go. It was a sunny Tuesday afternoon in my small town. The kind of day where the sky is so blue it feels like a painting. I was out of food. At home my fridge had nothing but a lonely tomato and some milk about to expire. Time to shop, I thought, grabbing my reusable bag and my trusty notebook for new English words. My goal: to buy groceries and practice English at the supermarket down the street. The air outside smelled of fresh bread from the bakery nearby, and kids were riding bikes, their laughter filling the street. I wasn't fluent in English, but I'd been watching videos online, practicing phrases like "where's the bread?" My stomach fluttered with nerves, but I was excited to try. The supermarket was a big, bright place with tall shelves stacked with colorful packages. The smell of ripe fruit and roasted coffee hit me as I walked in, and the hum of shoppers chatting made it feel alive. I grabbed a cart, its wheels squeaking, and headed to the fruit section, repeating my phrase, "I want apples." At the fruit stand, a worker in a green apron smiled at me. "Hello," I said, a bit too loud. "I want, apples." He nodded and pointed to a pile of shiny red apples. "Proud of myself," I said. "Thank you." But then I heard him ask, "How many?" I froze. Many sounded like money to me, and I blurted, "No money, just apples." He laughed, and I felt my face turn red. Tip: if you mix up words like many and money, don't panic, laugh it off, and try again. Repeating simple phrases like "I want this" out loud at home builds confidence. Realizing my mistake, I pointed to the apples and held up 5 fingers. "5, please," I said, my voice shaky but clear. The worker, whose name tag read Tom, grinned and handed me a bag of apples. I felt a spark of victory and scribbled many in my notebook to practice later. Moving to the bread aisle, I saw loaves of all kinds: white, whole grain, even one with seeds that looked like a bird's breakfast. I wanted to ask for fresh bread but got nervous. "Is this new?" I asked the lady stacking shelves. She looked confused, then smiled and said, "You mean fresh?" "Yes, this is fresh." I nodded, embarrassed but happy to learn fresh was the right word. Tip: if you don't know the perfect word, use a simple one or point to what you want. Practice words like fresh or new by saying them while shopping at home. In the dairy section, I needed milk but got lost among rows of yogurt, cheese, and cream. The cold air from the fridges made me shiver, and the bright labels were overwhelming. I saw a girl in a store uniform and tried again. "Milk, please," I asked, hoping I sounded clear. She pointed to a shelf and said, "Whole or skim?" I didn't know those words, so I guessed whole. "Whole?" She giggled and handed me a carton of whole milk. My cheeks burned, but her laugh was kind, not mean. I wrote whole and skim in my notebook, determined to get it right next time. Tip: don't worry if you say something wrong, like whole for whole. Write down new words and say them aloud 3 times to remember them better. Feeling braver, I headed to the snack aisle, where bags of chips and cookies sparkled under the lights. I wanted popcorn, but wasn't sure how to say it. A kid nearby, maybe 10 years old, was grabbing a bag of chips. "Excuse me," I said. "Popcorn?" He grinned and pointed to a shelf with popcorn bags. "Popcorn," he said, emphasizing the word. I repeated, "Popcorn, yes," and we both laughed. It felt like a mini English lesson from a kid. I grabbed a bag, the crinkle of the package loud in my hands, and added popcorn to my notebook. Tip: kids can be great teachers. Practice simple words like popcorn or chips with a friend or even in front of a mirror. To feel more confident. At the checkout, things got tricky again. The cashier, a guy with a friendly smile, scanned my items: apples, bread, milk, and popcorn. His machine beeped with each scan, and the total appeared on a screen. $25, he said. I wanted to ask if I could pay with a card, but my mind blanked. Card, okay, I mumbled, holding up my debit card. He nodded and said, sure, swipe here. I mixed up swipe with wipe and said, wipe card? He chuckled and showed me how to swipe it. I laughed too, feeling silly, but proud for trying. Tip, if you confuse words like swipe and wipe, it's okay. Practice payment phrases like can I pay with a card? At home to feel ready at the store. As I packed my groceries, I noticed a lady struggling with heavy bags nearby. She looked tired, so I decided to help. Using my English, need help? I asked. Pointing to her bags, her face lit up, and she said, oh, thank you. I carried a bag to her car, and we chatted a bit. She spoke slowly, which helped me understand. You're learning English? She asked. I nodded, saying, yes, it's fun. Her smile made me feel like I'd won a prize. Helping her was a small act, but it made my day brighter. Tip, use English to help someone. Even with simple words like help or please, it builds confidence and makes others smile. Walking home, the sun was lower, casting long shadows. Across the street, my reusable bag swung in my hand, filled with groceries and new words. The town was alive with sounds, birds chirping, a distant lawnmower humming, and kids shouting as they played soccer. I repeated my new words under my breath: many, fresh, whole, popcorn, swipe. Each one felt like a step toward fluency. I thought about how getting lost in the supermarket wasn't just about finding food, it was about finding my voice in English. My nerves had turned into excitement, and I couldn't wait to try again. Back home, I dropped my bag on the kitchen counter, the apples rolling out with a soft thud. Luna leapt onto the counter, sniffing the popcorn bag curiously. I laughed and said, Luna, I learned English today. She meowed, as if cheering me on. I grabbed my notebook and wrote a sentence. I buy fresh apples. Saying it aloud felt good, like planting a seed that would grow. The kitchen smelled of fruit and possibility, and I felt proud. I popped some popcorn, the buttery smell filling the air, and settled on the couch to practice more phrases. Tip, write a sentence with a new word, like I buy popcorn, and say it while doing the action. It makes learning stick. The next day, I felt more confident. I went back to the supermarket to buy eggs, ready to use my new words. The same cashier was there, and he recognized me. Hey, English guy, he said, smiling. I grinned and said, yes, I learn fast. We laughed, and I asked, fresh eggs? He pointed to the right shelf, and I got it right this time, no mix-ups. That small one made me feel like I could conquer anything, from groceries to English conversations. Tip, go back to the same place to practice English again. Familiar faces make it easier to try new phrases and feel at home. By the end of the week, I was using English everywhere, saying thank you at the bakery, asking how much at the market, even chatting with a neighbor about the weather. Each word was like a key unlocking a bigger world. My supermarket adventure taught me that learning English is about courage, laughs, and trying again. The bright aisles, the smell of fresh bread, and the kindness of strangers made it unforgettable. Buoyed by that first trip, I decided to make grocery shopping a weekly English challenge. The following Tuesday, I returned to the supermarket, my notebook thicker with phrases I'd practiced all week. The sun was just as bright, and the town buzzed with life, dogs barking, kids racing scooters, and the faint jingle of an ice cream truck in the distance. This time, my mission was bolder, to buy ingredients for a homemade pizza and speak more English. Maybe even make a new friend. I've been rehearsing phrases like where's the cheese? And how much is this? While Luna watched, her green eyes curious, probably wondering why I was talking to myself. The familiar scent of fresh produce greeted me as I entered the supermarket, now feeling like an old friend. The fluorescent lights buzzed softly, and the cool air was a relief from the warm day. I grabbed a cart, its wheels smoother this time, and headed to the vegetable section. My pizza plan needed tomatoes, bell peppers, onions, and mushrooms. A new ingredient for me, standing by a pile of vibrant red tomatoes. I practiced my phrase, "Are these fresh?" A worker, a young guy with a ponytail and a name tag reading Jake, was stacking peppers nearby. I took a deep breath and said, "Hello, are these tomatoes fresh?" He smiled and replied, "Yes." "Very fresh, picked yesterday." I beamed. Thrilled I'd nailed it, "Thank you," I said, grabbing 3 tomatoes and jotting picked in my notebook a new word to treasure. Tip: learn food-related words like picked or right by asking questions at the store. Say them aloud while holding the item to make them stick. Next, I hunted for mushrooms. But the vegetable section was a maze of greens and roots. I spotted a woman in a red scarf selecting zucchini and decided to ask for help. "Excuse me," I said, my voice steadier. "Where's mushrooms?" I stumbled. Pronouncing it mushrooms instead of mushrooms, she tilted her head, then laughed gently and pointed to a corner with neat piles of brown and white mushrooms. "Mushrooms, right there," she said kindly. I repeated, "Mushrooms, thank you," and felt a rush of pride. She introduced herself as Maria and asked if I was learning English. "Yes," I said. "It's hard but fun." She nodded and said, "Keep practicing. You're doing great." Her encouragement felt like a warm hug. Tip: don't shy away from asking strangers for help with words. Most people are happy to assist, and it's a great way to practice speaking naturally. With tomatoes and mushrooms in my cart, I ventured to the spice aisle for oregano essential for pizza sauce. The shelves were a kaleidoscope of jars labeled basil, thyme, and rosemary. I didn't know oregano in English, so I checked the translation app on my phone. An older man with glasses and a cheerful grin noticed my confusion. "Looking for something?" he asked. I showed him my phone with oregano and said, "This for pizza?" He chuckled and said, "Oh, oregano, right here." He handed me a small green jar, and I repeated, "Oregano, thank you." He winked and said, "Make a good pizza." I wrote oregano in my notebook and added wink because his gesture was so friendly. Tip: use a translation app if you're stuck, but say the word aloud after learning it. Pairing it with a gesture, like a wink, helps you remember the moment. The cheese section was a paradise of Roma sharp cheddar, creamy mozzarella, and something that smelled like old socks but looked fancy. I needed mozzarella for my pizza, but the options were dizzying: shredded, fresh, low-fat, even smoked. I spotted a worker, a woman with curly hair and a name tag reading Lila, and tried a full sentence. "Hello, I want mozzarella for pizza," I said, proud of my clarity. She smiled and asked, "Fresh or shredded?" I knew fresh from my bread adventure, so I said, "Fresh, please." She handed me a soft, white ball of mozzarella, and I felt like a chef already. "Thank you," I said. And she replied, "Enjoy your pizza." I added shredded to my notebook, excited to learn another food word. Tip: practice food adjectives, like fresh, shredded, or smoked by describing items in your kitchen. Say, "This is fresh bread," while holding it to make it real, feeling like an English-speaking pro. I headed to the meat section for pepperoni. The counter was bustling, with butchers in white aprons slicing ham and weighing chicken. I waited. My turn, practicing, "I want pepperoni," when a butcher with a booming voice called, "Next." I stepped up and said, "Hello, I want pepperoni for pizza." He nodded and asked, "How much?" "Half a pound?" I didn't know pound, so I guessed, "Yes, half." He sliced bright red pepperoni, wrapped it in paper, and handed it to me. Perfect for pizza, he said. I smiled, said thank you, and wrote pound in my notebook, vowing to look it up later. Tip: if you hear a new measurement word, like pound or ounce, write it down and practice it with a phrase like "I want half a pound." It's useful for shopping. With my pizza ingredients complete, I felt like a hero. But the supermarket beckoned with one more challenge: the bakery section. The smell of warm bread and sugary pastries drew me in. I wanted a dessert to go with my pizza, maybe cookies or a cake. The display case was a feast for the eyes: chocolate eclairs, powdered donuts, and cookies the size of my hand. I saw a girl behind the counter, her apron dusted with flour, and tried a new phrase. Hello, are these cookies good? I asked, pointing to chocolate chip cookies. She laughed and said, They're amazing. Want one to try? I nodded eagerly. She handed me a warm, gooey cookie. Delicious, I said, a word from a cooking show. She grinned and said, Glad you like it. I bought a dozen cookies and added delicious to my notebook. Tip: learn taste words like delicious, sweet, or salty by trying new foods and describing them in English. It makes eating a language lesson. At the checkout, I saw the same cashier from last week. Now feeling like an old friend, English guy, back again, he teased, scanning my tomatoes, mushrooms, oregano, mozzarella, pepperoni, and cookies. The scanner's beeps were like music, each one marking a successful find, $32. He said, I was ready this time. Can I pay with card? I asked, holding up my debit card. He nodded and said, Swipe here, you got it. I swiped correctly, no wipe mix-up, and felt a surge of pride as he handed me my receipt. He said, Your English is getting better. I grinned and said, Thank you, I practice. His encouragement made my heart soar. Tip: celebrate small wins, like saying a phrase correctly. Tell someone, I practice English. To share your progress, it feels great. As I packed my groceries, I noticed a young couple struggling with a huge watermelon while juggling other bags. I remember how good it felt to help last week, so I approached them. Need help? I asked, pointing to the watermelon. They looked surprised but grateful. Yes, please, the woman said. I carried the watermelon to their car, and we chatted. They were tourists, speaking English fluently. Your English is good, the man said. I laughed and said, I'm learning slowly. They thanked me, and I felt like I made new friends, even if just for a moment. Tip: helping others is a great way to practice English. Use simple phrases like, Can I help? Or here you go to start small conversations. Walking home, the sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. My reusable bag was heavier, stuffed with pizza ingredients and cookies, but my heart was light. The town was quieter, with crickets chirping and streetlights flickering on. I repeated my new words: picked, mushrooms, oregano, shredded, pound, delicious, feeling them roll off my tongue like a song. Each word was a tiny victory, a piece of my English journey. The supermarket wasn't just a place to buy food, it was my classroom, my stage, my adventure. Back at my apartment, Luna was waiting, her tail flicking as she eyed my grocery bag. I unpacked everything on the kitchen counter, the tomatoes bright, the mozzarella cool to the touch. Luna, we're making pizza, I said, and she meowed as if she understood. I started preparing, saying my new words aloud. I sliced fresh tomatoes. I sprinkled oregano. I had delicious mozzarella. Each phrase made it feel like a game. As the pizza baked, the smell of pepperoni and cheese filled the apartment, and I wrote a new sentence in my notebook. I make a delicious pizza, saying. It felt like casting a spell, turning ingredients into confidence. Tip: turn cooking into an English lesson. Say what you're doing, like I cut mushrooms or I bake pizza, to practice verbs and food words. That evening, I invited my neighbor, Sophia, to share the pizza. She was a teacher who spoke some English and loved hearing about my supermarket adventures. As we ate, the crust crispy and the cheese gooey, I told her about my mix-ups and new words. You're brave, Marcos, she said. Learning English in a supermarket is genius. I laughed and said, It's fun, too. We practiced English, describing the pizza. It's spicy, it's cheesy, and I felt part of a bigger world, where words connected people over a simple meal. Tip: share your English stories with a friend or neighbor. Talking about your learning makes it fun and helps you remember new words. The next week, I returned to the supermarket with a new goal: to buy ingredients for a fruit salad for a community picnic. I wanted strawberries, bananas, and mangoes, and I practiced phrases like, Are these ripe? And how much for? The supermarket felt like home. It sounds familiar. Its workers like teammates in my English quest. I saw Jake, the ponytail guy, and waved. Hello, Jake, I said. He grinned and said, "Hey, pizza guy, what's today's mission?" I laughed and said, "Fruit salad." He helped me pick ripe strawberries, teaching me juicy. I added it to my notebook, my word collection growing like a garden. Tip: make a list of words for each shopping trip, like juicy or ripe, and review them before you go. It's like a treasure hunt for vocabulary. At the picnic, I set out my fruit salad. The strawberries red, the bananas yellow, and the mangoes glowing like little suns. People complimented it, and I said, "It's juicy and delicious." Using my new words, a little girl asked, "Did you make this?" I nodded and said, "Yes, I buy fruit at the supermarket." She clapped and said, "Yummy." Her excitement reminded me of the kid who taught me popcorn, and I realized how much I'd learned in a few weeks. The picnic was filled with laughter, music, and chatter, and I used English whenever I could, saying please, try some, or thank you. To everyone who tasted my salad. Tip: use English at social events, even with simple phrases like try this or it's good. It's a fun way to practice without pressure. Over the next month, my supermarket trips became a ritual. Each visit brought new words, carton, aisle, discount, and new faces. Like the cashier who taught me change when I paid with cash, or the delivery guy who said have a nice day as he wheeled crates past me. I noticed English everywhere in signs, songs on the radio, and park conversations. My notebook was filling up, its pages crinkled and smudged, but each word was a trophy. I even started dreaming in English, simple sentences like I buy apples floating through my sleep. Tip: keep a notebook or phone app for new words and review them daily. Say them in sentences, like I see a discount, to make them part of your life. One day, I pushed myself further. The supermarket had a customer service desk for questions or returns, which I'd always avoided, intimidated by longer conversations. But I wanted to ask about a loyalty card to save money. I practiced all morning. "Can I get a loyalty card?" At the desk, a woman with a warm smile greeted me. "Hello, can I help you?" she asked. I took a deep breath and said, "Yes, can I get a loyalty card?" She explained how it worked, using words like points and savings. I didn't catch everything but understood enough to sign up. "Thank you," I said, clutching my new card like a diploma. She smiled and said, "You're welcome. Keep practicing your English." I added points and savings to my notebook, feeling like I'd climbed a mountain. Tip: try a new challenge, like asking about a service or product. Prepare one key phrase, like "Can I get this?" and build from there. As weeks turned into months, my confidence grew. I started small conversations everywhere. At the bakery, I asked, "Is this cake sweet?" At the post office, I said, "Can you send this fast?" Each interaction was a step forward. In the supermarket remained my favorite classroom. One day, I saw Maria, the woman who helped me find mushrooms, shopping with her daughter, Marcos. She called, "How's your English?" I grinned and said, "Better every day." Her daughter, a shy girl with pigtails, said, "You speak good." I laughed and said, "Thank you, I try." We chatted about her favorite foods, and I used words like sweet and crunchy, feeling like a real English speaker. Tip: revisit people you've met to practice again. They'll notice your progress, and it's fun to share your journey with them. My supermarket adventures taught me more than words. They taught me resilience, humor, and the joy of connecting with people. The bright aisles, the chatter of shoppers, and the smell of fresh bread became part of my story. I'm still not fluent, but every trip adds a new chapter. I'm cheering for you, English learners, to find your own adventures. Go to a store, a cafe, or a park, and try a phrase like "Hello, can you help?" or "This is nice." Laugh at your mistakes, write down new words, and keep going. Each word is a spark, and together, we'll light up the world with our stories. Let's make learning English a delicious, joyful journey.